So, about 3 years into my role-playing career, I think I can finally call myself a professional D&D veteran, or a huge nerd to be precise. And to celebrate this achievement, I wanted to make a new D&D campaign that my family of 4 would be a part of called the Spire Academy. Now, the idea for Spire Academy was to have a party of wizards who learn magic in a, you guessed it, magical academy. The school itself was this huge island castle thing, and it was owned by an old demigod of magic named Mr. Merlin. The castle itself was also operated by 8 arc wizards, who were the teachers at the school and made sure that the other students wouldn't get into trouble. The party itself consisted of an elf evoker named Thomas Toron, a tiefling enchantress named Misha Mu, a tiefling necromancer named Signet Earhart, and a tiefling conjurer named Tibbs Tetawink. I'm just gonna assume that they all went tieflings because they wanted fire resistance, and spamming fireball was going to become the norm of the group. Kudos to Thomas though for standing out. Anyway, there was an ongoing issue with the school where students were disappearing left and right, and the Archmage teachers supposedly had no idea what was going on. Eventually, the campaign got to a point where the headmaster personally asked the group to investigate the missing student cases by heading deep beneath the castle in an abandoned, forgotten prison quarters. Now, this part of the campaign deserves a video just on its own, so I'll skip over to the part where the party instead decides to not do Merlin's quest, and they bail the entire castle, running off on a boat in the middle of the night. So during the next day, the party began asking around the town that they'd just docked on for leads on what the heck just happened. Now, I don't know too much about magic, but last night when me and my friends were in the forest, a bunch of trees sprung to life and attacked us. It might be worth taking a look at. The party also found that Miss Jenki, one of the Archmages, was the only teacher that didn't get turned into a monster. Jenki explained how all of the students in the school just disappeared, that the other Archmages were all turned into horrendous monsters, and the only way to remove the layers of magic on the school would be to find the other teachers and free their souls by killing them. So by putting 2 and 2 together, it sounded like one of the Arch monsters were behind why the trees had been brought back to life, and it'd probably be a good idea to start there. So off to the forest they went. After a long trip of battling awakened trees, and traversing over a lake of acidic ooze which seemed to instantly obliterate any plant life that it came into contact with, the group all decided to take a rest in a forest clearing. Now, a forest just wouldn't be a forest without a few wild encounters, so now would be a great time for some random hostile monster to wander on over, realize it's hungry, and attack the group. So the monster I assigned to a roll of a 6 was a shambling mound, which is essentially a giant walking bush with fists so swole they could kill a commoner 3 times over, twice. In the grand scheme of things, the party were all level 6s, and one shambling mound, at least challenge rating wise, couldn't have even been called a difficult encounter, let alone threatening. Well, if I knew what was about to go down, I probably would have thought twice on that. So, shambling mounds aren't the greatest stealth hunters, but they're good enough to warrant just attempting it. So the battle began, and the shambling mound shambled into the forest clearing and randomly chose one of the party members to smash, the lucky pick being Thomas the Elf. Now, this would normally be fine, but Thomas got badly injured while crossing over the Ast River, so he wasn't too ready for another beating. The shambling mound made 2 slam attacks, both were crits. Thomas fell unconscious and started making death saves, and the mound strapped the elf to his back and moved on to the tieflings. At this point, everyone at the table started freaking out, and nobody knew how they were going to save Thomas, let alone themselves. They tried restraining the mound, but it broke free. They tried using suggestion and telling it to leave them alone, but the mound didn't understand common, so the spell didn't work. Then they tried to attack it with a firebolt and a beam from a witch bolt, which, to their displeasure, I had to respond with. The shambling mound's huge leaves raise and slide the firebolt clean off of them. Seems the mound has resistance to fire. The witch bolt, however, hits the shambling mound directly. The creature opens its huge mouth and starts consuming the electricity. You healed the mound for 6 HP. Then the mound took its turn again, crit, and sucker punched Signet straight in the face. It was at this very moment when everyone at the table all agreed that they were not going to win this fight.
This behemoth crits every round, takes no damage from flame, which, aside from magic missile, is our only source of damage, and heals off my lightning attacks? This isn't a shambling mound. This is God on Earth.
Yep, I agree. So the battle was looking unwinnable, and God was still practically uninjured. Signet managed to escape with her life barely intact, and the group had to flee with one of their members still in the clutches of God. After that nightmare of an encounter, the party made their way to Meriwether, who was one of the school's archmages, which had been turned into a vicious treant. The party dealt with her unusually quickly. Once they finished with the treant, the group headed back towards the Acid River, where they had encountered God, and Signet found parts of Thomas's skeleton lying in the dirt. Turns out the shambling mound hadn't left the area, and I described how God re-emerged from the forest, still hungry for more. The party all re-rolled their initiatives, and I could sense the inner hatred resonating from the table towards this unkillable monster. After escaping God the first time, the party had killed 3 treants in the span of 3 combat rounds. But God wasn't like any other plant in the forest. He was made to massacre the small health pools of wizards, and he was still practically uninjured. Plus, in order to escape the forest through the way that they came, everyone had to run over an old tree that they had felled over the Acid River. Now, God wasn't the greatest acrobat, and when he tried to walk over the trunk, he ended up losing his footing and landed straight into the acid pool. Being vaporized in an instant. We all then had a good look at each other.
It was that easy? It was that easy?
Now, I did not expect a shambling mound to pack that much punch. In the end, though, an encounter is an encounter, and that fight ended up being a memorable session. Rest in peace, Thomas. You will never be forgotten, but easily replaced.